Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Melissa Culleton Show. This week, I am so glad you're here. And I'm looking forward to the conversation today because I really want to talk to you guys about three big ticket things, big ticket items that we all must consider when we're trying to find our purpose. And these three things are things that I don't think people think about when they consider finding their purpose. It's like they go on this hunt and this trek and this journey of trying to find their purpose. There are three major critical components of this that influence that purpose journey that we really just don't talk about that much. And before I get into it, I would love to just ask that you go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you can see my videos as they come out. I usually try to do one at least once a week, and I'm going to start trying to do one twice a week for us. So if you could go ahead and just hit the subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. Like this video, share this video, do all the things. I really appreciate the support. And of course, this critical work that we're doing of trying to find purpose will get out in the world more and more. So back to the three things that come together to support us in finding our purpose, but that we don't necessarily consider as the main things or the things that are just so critical and crucial to actually finding our purpose. And instead, what we do, and I'll get into those three things in a minute, but instead, what we do with trying to find our purpose is, what do? We go on Google searches, we talk to people, we hire coaches, we go on retreats, maybe we go on some sort of enlightenment journey with plant medicine. We go down YouTube rabbit holes like crazy. We probably buy books. Maybe we roll in programs. Maybe we join memberships. And the three things that are so critical in finding our purpose are completely overlooked. And quite frankly, I don't think they're really talked about that much, but they are so monumental in being able to get to a point where we feel like we have a purpose in life. So if you have not actually went back and watched some of my foundational videos on how to find your purpose, I really welcome you to do that or invite you to do that, because as we move forward in these conversations, those foundational concepts are really, really critical to understand. But I'll just touch on it really quickly in case you haven't watched those videos and you don't want to go back and you want to continue watching this one and learn what the three things are that are really important for us to understand what our purpose is. And the foundational component that I always teach about purpose is not necessarily this big monumental thing that happens to you. You don't get some lightning bolt that comes down, strikes you and says, "Hi, this is your purpose. Go do your life's work." And let's just be honest, even if it did, I really don't even think it would work. Even though people constantly want to say things like, "I wish somebody would just tell me what my purpose is. I wish somebody would just tell me what to do." I actually don't think we would even listen, even if that existed, because to be honest with you, there are some resources out there where it kind of does exist, which I'm not going to get into in this video because that's not what it's about. But even if that happened, even if a lightning bolt hit us from out of nowhere and said, "This is your life purpose," I nearly guarantee you, because of the way human behavior is and because of the way our minds work, we would challenge that. We would say, "I don't think so." And we would probably go on our way and on our journey of just doing what we wanted to do and figuring it out on our own anyway. So that's one major foundational component. The second major component or foundational component of being able to find your purpose is understanding that in relation to what I just said about purpose not being this like one big thing that happens to you life and boom, there it is. I'm not saying that never happens, but it rarely happens. And in conjunction with that is the fact that your life's purpose is carrying out your soul's desires. That is it, period. And the back end of that, the harder part of that, the thing that people struggle with the most isn't necessarily finding their purpose. It's actually understanding what the soul desires. It's actually understanding and tuning into what is going on inside of us with the soul to get to a place where we understand fully what our purpose is. So, I want the two major foundational things to be really critical in your journey of figuring out what your purpose is, because if you don't know those two things, it can be really difficult to get any further with yourself. So again, if you haven't went back and watched those videos, I welcome you to. They're literally called How to Find Your Purpose or something like that. So they're pretty obvious, but they're on my YouTube channel. And outside of that, though, I want to talk about these three things now. And the three things that are so critical in the journey of finding your purpose and are not considered often enough, if not at all, are mind, body, and soul. And the reason I think that those are so important, well, there's probably a lot of reasons why those are so important, but I'll go through each one and what it's, I guess, what's its role in finding the purpose, right? Like, what is its role in finding the purpose? And if you don't understand those things, I think it's going to be really difficult for you to even get to your purpose, because we all know, and you're probably someone who this may have happened to. Maybe you know what your purpose is. Like, maybe you're someone who's super clear on what it is you love to do, want to do, what you're passionate about, but you're afraid to pursue it, or you've tried and you failed. So I say what I'm about to say because these three things, mind, body, and soul, are so critical in finding out your purpose, because those are the three things that move you along in life, right? Like, the mind keeps you awake, the body keeps you moving, the soul keeps you generating emotions and all the other good stuff and connecting with divine, all that fun stuff. And so those are the three things that just make up life, generally speaking, as we are here on earth. And so I want to go into each one of those one by one so we can talk about the role they play in finding your purpose and where you can get tripped up with each one of them and how you leverage each one of them to your advantage. So I'm going to start by saying and talking about the mind first. And this one's probably the most critical one, because like I said earlier, you could be a person who absolutely knows their purpose, but is too afraid to pursue it, or has tried to pursue it at any given point and either failed and given up, or got afraid and gave up. So there's all sorts of things that can happen here, but I want to talk about the mind first and in its relation to finding your purpose, because it is the thing that that will literally make or break your experience with finding your purpose. And here's why. The mind acts out of complete and total survival mode. And so if you're a person who, let's just say, you went to school to do marketing, and you went to school, you got your bachelor's degree, mom and dad paid for your college, and then you got out of school and you started taking on marketing jobs, and you did that for about 10 years or so. So now we're at 32-ish age, depending on when you go to college, between 32 and 35. And a significant portion of those years, you weren't really happy. You didn't really feel fulfillment. You didn't feel like you were serving your purpose here on earth. And so then you start playing around with trying to find your purpose. So you start Googling or searching or looking at things or reading things or trying to follow signs. And when you go to make the change, like when you go to start saying, you know what, I don't actually really want to do marketing anymore. I want to do something else. I don't feel like I'm living a purposeful life. I don't enjoy my work, and I want to try something else. Your brain will quite literally send out alarm signals to you, and your mind will basically say, please don't do that. That means something is going to change, or a lot of things may change, which means I have less control of our safety. I meaning mind. So the mind is such a critical piece to finding your purpose, because when you try to edit, to pivot, to make a move, to do something different, your mind literally sends out alarm signals. And so what is anybody to do in those moments, right? Like, how are you supposed to overcome that, especially if you don't know that? If you're not aware of this concept, you might just get in this awful cycle. So if you're not aware that your mind is such a critical piece to finding your purpose, you may end up and understanding that when and if you decide to make a change and go straight to your purpose, or go straight to having a fulfilling life. If you don't know that your mind is going to literally send off alarm signals, what ends up happening is you will get in this self-loathing cycle. So what will happen is you'll get excited about something, you'll try to pursue it, your mind will freak out, it'll shut everything down, and then what do? You blame yourself. You get mad at yourself. You shame yourself. You tell yourself you're lazy, stupid, can't be consistent. You'll go nuts blaming yourself, when in reality, it's like you're not to blame, right? I had this coach tell me that recently. She has this pillar in her coaching program called "You're Not to Blame," because we do that so much. And so if we could just understand that part of our programming and who we are as human beings, to keep us alive, our brain must have consistency. Our brain must have predictability. And even when you're in a situation that's not great and you're not enjoying it, your brain will still not want to change that, because it can predict what's next. And the minute it can't predict what's next, aka you just start pursuing a new hobby, you start pursuing your purpose, you start pursuing your passions, you start thinking you want to do a different job, live in a different place, date a different person, whatever the case may be. If it is change, your brain will say, no, thank you, please stop. Okay? So it's really important to understand that. And it's really important to understand how to sort of watch your mind do that and let it do it, console it as needed, and then move on from there, so that you can actually continue pursuing your purpose, or continue pursuing what it is you want to do, or whatever that change looks like. Because otherwise, it'll just keep shutting you down. And then you'll keep getting in this shame loop, this feeling bad about yourself loop, and keep blaming yourself for the problem or for not being able to make the change, when in reality, it's just your makeup. It's just your literal physiological makeup. So that's why mind is such a huge part of this process, because when and if you're making changes, aka trying to pursue your purpose, your mind will literally send alarm signals to your body to get it to stop, because it does not want change. It wants predictability instead. So that's why the mind is such a huge component in trying to find your purpose, because it will quite literally shut you down from that. Okay? And if you're not aware of it, you can't overcome it. So you just have to literally start by becoming aware of it. The second component to this that's really important to finding your purpose is understanding how the body has any sort of play in this, has any sort of component to finding your purpose. So again, mind, body, soul are hugely and critically important into the process of finding your purpose. And we just talked about the mind. The second component of that is your body. And the reason your body is so important in any of this is because your body just knows. Your body just knows. And have you ever, and this is just a great example, have you ever went into a place, a meeting, a restaurant, a cafe, or really just anywhere, to the car shop to get your oil changed, anywhere? Have you ever went somewhere and your body starts feeling kind of different or like off, and like you're just sort of like picking up on a strange vibe? This is your senses. This is your body having the ability to kind of signal to you what is right and what is wrong, what it likes, what it doesn't like. And obviously there's a mind-body connection there as well. So again, if I go back to pointing out that if and when you try to make change, your mind will literally send stress or distress signals to your body, and then your body picks it up and starts doing what? Having anxiety, freaking out, feeling sick to your stomach, and then you're really going to shut it down. So that's the second piece. So it's the body has a big role, but the two big ways the body has a role are through picking up those distress signals from you and shutting everything down despite its best efforts to want good for you. And then the second component is just the gut feelings, the intuition that you can really tap into to try to start following a path that really feels good to you. Because if it doesn't literally, and I mean quite literally, feel good in your body, then it's going to be really difficult to continue pursuing. And also, the body allows you to have signals of goodness. And I think that there's such a great example of this. I actually had one this recently where I did my first public speaking engagement, and I was really nervous and all the things you would expect, right? The mind's like, oh my God, freaking out. Like, no, we shouldn't do this. We've never done this before. You're going to die. Don't do it. And my body was picking those up. But I could also just tap into the fact that the next day I was so over the moon about the experience that the next day I literally didn't have my back pain that I normally have. I wasn't tired despite going to bed at like after midnight, which I never do because I got home really late. Never do that. That never happens. And I wasn't tired. My back didn't hurt. My head didn't hurt. I wasn't congested in any way. Sometimes I wake up congested a lot for whatever reason. So it was as if my body was just signaling to me that the experience was amazing and it wanted more of that. And I think we can really tap into this huge tool as we're going through this process of trying to find our purpose, because it'll allow us to understand what feels good to us, what doesn't feel good to us, how we follow our gut, how we listen to our intuition. And the body just gives so much signaling. And again, a lot of times, if we're not aware of this, we can fall into that trap. If we're not aware that our body is a huge component to finding our purpose, we can fall into this trap of shutting our body down, shutting the signals down. And that can go on both the positive and the negative, right? So if, let's just say you have a lot of stomach acid or something like that, and a lot of times it's because of stress and anxiety, and what are we going to do? We're just going to take antacids, right? We're going to try to shut that down so we don't feel it. Or maybe on the flip side of that, when your body's feeling really light and good and engaged and pain-free, and you're breathing well, and you just have a lightness to you, that's your body saying, I like this. Can we do more of that? So it's really important to understand that when you're trying to find your purpose, the first component to consider and think about and understand is your mind. The second one is your body. These are two massive components that allow us to move forward, that allow us to understand what's going on, that allow us to tap into how we're feeling. Do we like this? Do we not like this? So on to the third component, which is your soul. And this one is just so near and dear to my heart, because I personally, when I was trying to find my purpose, I heard so many people say, just follow your heart, just follow your soul. Don't you know what your soul wants? And for the life of me, I thought to myself, well, I know that. I know you're supposed to follow your heart and follow your soul. I know those things. But I don't know how to do that. I just don't know how to do that. And I want to talk about that today a little bit, because it kind of mixes in with all of the other stuff that I just said, and it mixes in with everything I've ever taught about purpose. But the big ticket item about your soul is, and how it helps you try to find your purpose, is if you can tap into your soul, if you can find a way to your soul, that is obviously your on-ramp to finding your purpose. That will put you on the highway to finding your purpose. And I really do think that whenever we talk about purpose and we say, follow your heart and follow your soul, but then we don't give the how, we're leaving people to go, okay, yeah, I can do that. And then they go to do it and they can't do it. They don't know how to. They're like, what? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to tap into my soul. And a lot of that's not our fault. Again, we're not to blame. It's just we're not taught how to do that. We're not really taught how to do that. We're just given very cerebral direction. I call it the conveyor belt syndrome of life, of adults, of humans, where we're literally raised as kids. Our parents are doing the very best they can to make us good humans. They're not teaching us about these things because they're teaching us how to act. And so then they send us off to college, right? Or the military, or off to go get a job, whatever it may be. And then we're on this non-intentional conveyor belt and not necessarily tapping into what we want or who we want to become. We're tapping into what's my major, what kind of job am I going to get, how much money can I make, right? And it's not this tapping into who am I as a person and what really brings me joy. And so then we're on this conveyor belt of adulthood where we jump out of college, and what do? We try to get the first job we can. Why? Because we need money. We've got our student loans to pay for. We got a car to pay for. Mom and dad are probably asking us to get our own apartment at this point. And so then we jump right into, how do I make money? And so you get that first job, you start building your experience. Ooh, it's exciting. I like it. It's not bad. I'm learning something new. I got new colleagues. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. But after the dust settles and you find yourself still on this conveyor belt of just doing something for the sake of doing it and not necessarily because you really love it or really enjoy it or because you're really in tune with what your soul wants. So all of that is this culmination of never really learning how to tap into our soul, never really learning what is it we want. I mean, I talk to 35 plus year old people all day, every day, people who are in their 40s, sometimes in their 50s, and they are even saying, I don't know what I want. It's because we're not taught to figure that out. So your soul is really your gateway to finding your purpose, and that's because your soul guides you, your soul leads the way. And as it connects to the other components, your body and your soul, one of the biggest mistakes that we will make in life is we let our minds lead the way and not our soul lead the way. And why wouldn't we? Our mind gives us a lot of information. It seems relatively logical to follow our mind. It does not seem very logical to think, no, I'm going to follow my soul's path, not my mind's path. Again, not taught that, right? And the logic of it is, let's just follow the mind. And the mind says, you better have some money to survive. You better not let your parents down. You better pay the bills or you'll get your car taken away, repossessed. You'll foreclose on your house if you don't pay for it. So these are all the things that just start stacking up and stacking up and stacking up, and we feel like crushed under all that pressure. And by the time we have all those things and actually want to do our purpose, then we feel stuck and we can't do it, and or we say we don't even know what we want anymore. That's a big ticket item. I don't even know what I want anymore. So the key to this is understanding that the how behind the soul's ability to communicate to you about what it wants. Because remember, if we go back to the foundations of how to find your purpose and keeping in mind that the way you find your purpose is carrying out your soul's desires, then the next step is figuring out what it is your soul wants. And the way you do that is understanding that your soul speaks in emotions. Now, the caveat to that is you may have emotions that are caused by your mind. So your mind wants to create a lot of fear to stop you from doing things. So over time, you have to really develop that discernment muscle so that you really understand the difference between your soul speaking truly from the soul and truly from its desires versus it speaking from a place of being completely freaked out because the mind's like, oh my God, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Why are we changing? We're going to die. Oh my God, stop. And so you have to go through a lot of examples and situations to understand how to have that discernment. But generally speaking, if you are in a situation where you are really joyous and you are really happy, your purpose is to check in with your soul on those things and say like, hey, if that's something we really love to do we want to do more of that? And then it's your job to continue doing more of that. So I know this isn't what probably people want to hear, because people want to hear, no, I want to understand. I want to be able to check with my soul. My soul being like, oh, you should go be a photographer because you'd really love that. And go start taking pictures. People just want this like direct line. And we do have a direct line. We just don't know how to hear it, discern it, or what to do with it. And a lot of times, again, we act out of the mind or the ego or fear or fear of rejection or wanting approval versus really acting out of what the soul wants. And, a big example of this is I'm a person who loves to be with my people. Like, if you are my person and you are in my circle, I love to be with you. And I will spend a lot of time with you and we will talk about some really deep, cool stuff. But I am also a person who souls wants some rest and recovery. If I don't have that, I can't continue to engage the way I want to. I can't be present the way I want to be present. And back before I really started practicing finding my purpose this way, before I started really practicing life this way, I would just do things because I thought I had to. I would just like keep going because I thought I should. Like even when I was exhausted and I needed rest and I needed some alone time and I needed to go in the woods and be by myself, I would just keep doing it. I would just keep going forward. And this is just a very small example, but it is an example. And when we start really living this way, our life completely changes. Like when we really genuinely start leading with our soul, our life just completely changes. Our landscape changes, our friends change, our world changes, everything changes because we're living out of our soul's desires, aka fulfilling our purpose, versus doing what the whole world wants us to do, or doing what mom and dad wants us to do, or doing what our spouses want us to do, or doing what the school wants us to do, or doing what society wants us to do. Do you see how we get kind of like ripped out of that frame? We get like lifted and shifted right out of our frame, and our soul is completely like lost in the dust. So in summary, I could really go on about this for a long time, as you can see. But what I need everybody to understand is that if we start getting to that place where we have a great understanding and awareness of what purpose even means, which again, your purpose is to fulfill your soul's desires. And we understand this in the concept or the construct of our mind, body, soul having massive amounts to do with whether or not we're able to fulfill this. And if we just simply start with having an understanding of how these guys all have their own responsibilities in the equation, once we realize that, then we can start really working with it. It's like having someone tell you to build a car and you're blindfolded and you can't even see any of the parts, and you're just trying to put the car together without any direction, without any parts, without being able to even see. Whereas if we take this blindfold off and we can really just see the components that make up how we find our purpose, and we understand how to work with each one of those components. Like I understand how to work with my mind now. I know how to let it throw its fit when I'm doing something completely different and it doesn't want to do it. I know how to overcome that. I know how to trump that. I know how to get above that. I know how to control my mind. I know how to get my mind out of my way, but also cater to it, right? We can't just like totally check out, because that would mean we're probably numbing our mind in some way. So we can't do that. But it is an understanding of just how to work with your mind to your benefit. And then the other component in this equation of finding your purpose is working with your body and understanding what your body is saying to you. So when you're light and joyous, just really understanding that and really grasping onto those moments and understanding what it is about those moments that allows you to feel light and joyous in your body, or those moments where on the flip side, unfortunately, your body gets stressed, strained, tension in the back of your head, stomach hurting. Those are your body's signals to say, we're not on the right track. We are out of alignment for sure. So the body allows for you to understand fully when you're in alignment and when you're completely out of alignment, and learning to listen to that instead of numbing it is the critical piece, or a critical piece of the three, to finding your soul, to finding your purpose. And lastly, but of course favoritely, is your soul. And again, just to reiterate, your soul speaks to you in your emotions, not to be confused about emotions that can often be generated because your mind is trying to get you to stop doing something or get you to fear something. But, those feelings of, those emotions of happiness and satisfaction and contentment and anything else that just like allows you to understand what your soul is saying to you, those emotions that are coming up, those are your signals. Those are your signals that tell you if you're on the right track or not on the right track. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope that it helps. And would love to hear from you. Either put some comments down below or reach out to me. You can find me at melissaculleton.com. You can find me on all the socials, some version of Melissa Culleton, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. But please do feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about this, because honestly, I covered this in 30 minutes or so, but it is a really it's a pretty heavy topic is what I think I would say, because these three components are ones that you just kind of make yourself aware of. And then over time, you start really building that discernment muscle and understanding the different components and when who's doing what, when the mind's freaking out versus when the soul's freaking out, versus when the body's freaking out, or when they're all kind of like happy and everybody's on board, or when one's freaking out but the other ones are happy. So it's a lot of just figuring out how to make all those components work together so that you really get to a place where you feel settled into knowing you're living your life's purpose. So, okay, guys, till next time, thanks again for listening, and let me know what you think about this episode. Okay, bye.